Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Monster with two faces. She tries to persuade me every time I see her. The problem is, she doesn't know me like I know me. She doesn't know I have two faces. One, an angelic face, acceptable to society. It's the one I show her and everyone else. The other face is an unsettling one, with the coolness of its dead gray eyes and the chill of its lifeless skin. I keep it locked inside the most hidden parts of me. I can't show it to the world. They won't accept it. How are you doing today, Nicole? She asks as she sips her chamomile tea. The smell makes me nauseous. I hate the smell of lavender. If not the lavender, it could be the honey. Whatever smell exists inside her cup, making her so calm. My fingers itch to shatter the mug in her hands and watch her lose her composure. I detest the way she tilts her head. Mostly, I can't stand the pity in her eyes as she uses her words to claw at my layers. She wants to understand me. I want to understand why she wastes her time. I've spent years with myself, and even I don't know how I became this sick creature writhing in on itself in front of her. Actually, that's a lie. It takes a monster to create a monster. Still, what happens when a monster wants to become human? I search her face like she holds the keys to my humanity. I can't complain. I smile through my words. Life treats me well enough. The clock ticks down on the wall like a slow, dripping faucet. 58 minutes to go. She watches me watch the door. I imagine I look like a dog thrown in a tub for a bath. I need to be clean, yet I watch the door because I hate the water. I watch it like my life depends on it. Any second, the door will crack open with an escape from this horrible magnifying glass I'm under. I wait for more words to pour out of her like suds washing away the dirtiest parts of me. Last time, we made real progress. I'm proud of you for sharing pieces of your past. It can be hard to share parts of yourself with a stranger. Her words irritate my nervous system, setting me on edge. I'm not sharing parts of me to make her proud. She speaks to me like I have a choice being here. I don't have a choice. I am sick. I am so sick inside. Society says sitting on a couch is the answer to sewing my aching flesh back together into something that looks human. It isn't hard, actually. When I talk about myself, I don't feel anything at all. It's like talking about a stranger to a stranger. She takes another slow sip of her disgusting tea and pierces me with her eyes. They're green, with layers of yellow, like a dying lawn on a hot summer's day. Her legs cross in crisp pants, white like hospital walls. I stare with an empty feeling in my chest at her sandals. Her toes peek through the tops with a fresh red pedicure. Rich blonde highlights color her hair, not a single strand out of place. She holds herself together with confidence and grace. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself like that. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself at all. Last time we spoke about your uncle. Do you want to talk more about what happened? How's your boyfriend? I ask. Is he still out of town? Must be hard. She takes the bait. He should be back the 1st of next month. We spend the next 30 minutes talking about the places he travels for work. She's oblivious to the way I can bat around our conversations like a cat with a mouse. I can't say why I waste these sessions like this. I can, but no one will like the answer. I waste them because I want help, and I don't want help. I want to pretend I'm putting in the work to be more human. Look at me. I am one step closer to being like all the other humans around me. I'm not an empty shell. I am not a monster. With 10 minutes of our session left on the clock, I feel safe sliding over another dirty part of me for her to clean. My fingers tangle themselves in the gray fleece blanket on her couch while I choose my words. I won't tell her the full truth. I'll tell her half and see how she reacts. You never know with humans. They say they want to help you. They only want what's best for you. In my experience, they will throw you under the bus the moment it serves them. I'm not condemning them. Don't get me wrong. How could I? I do the same thing and worse. Sometimes I throw people under the bus for no reason other than because I feel like it. I think I have an addiction, I confess. Her response is safe and neutral. A lot of people struggle with addictions. It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. I rearrange my face into what I think looks like relief. That makes me feel better. Her lips are glossed over with rosy pink tint. I watch, fascinated with the way they glisten as she speaks. What are you struggling with? I pause before I answer. I'm shifting through my memories of the night before. I've been seeing the same man for 6 weeks. His name isn't important. I don't bother too often with things like that. It lasted a little longer this time than it usually does. Thoughts of his hands on my thighs and his lips on my neck make me shiver. I consider how to tell this perfect blonde woman in front of me how sex is the only thing that makes me feel anything at all. 6 weeks before him, it was someone who only lasted 10 minutes. Anthony, was it? We locked eyes in the elevator on our way to biology. College campus was always deserted for our late-night classes. He had dark hair and a lazy smile. His brown eyes lingered on mine a bit too long after the doors closed, and I knew. I closed the gap between us and slipped my tongue into his mouth. He tasted like strawberry Pop-Tarts. He didn't move for a moment, and then there he was, sliding warm hands up my dress like they had a right to be there. Men are like that. I can't seem to stop eating, I confess. We have only a few minutes left of our session. She spends this time talking to me about how to sit with cravings. It's all in one ear and out the other. She tells me when the impulses hit me, try to resist for as long as I can. If I can resist for 1 hour, resist for 1 hour. If I can resist for 5 minutes, resist for 5 minutes. I smile and thank her for the session. You help me so much. I am grateful for these discussions. I can't tell you how much you've done for me since I started seeing you for therapy. I lie. I quickly shoot for the door. An hour of compassion, real or fake, is too much for me. It makes my skin crawl when people show things like affection or kindness. I wish she would tell me I'm disgusting. I long to hear her tell me I am a waste of space who can't be saved. Anything out of those perfect pink lips resembling the truth. Instead, she wastes all our time with empty words as she tries to convince me I am not a monster. Hours after our session, I find myself with a strange man I don't know. We had talked earlier on a dating app. He's attractive enough, with a single dimple on his left cheek when he smiles. Not that looks really matter much to me. I slide into a green Toyota Camry with a missing passenger mirror. It smells like cigarettes and old fast food bags. Baby, you are so hot, he tells me as he paws at my thigh with his calloused fingers. I'll be honest, there is a small part of me who wishes I would stop doing this to myself. I hate the way I give myself to anyone who asks. Yet, that's the thing about addictions. Even if you hate yourself for it, you can't stop. I take his hand and slide it further up my skirt. I hear him breathe in deep, and I can tell how much he wants me. His car brings us to a gloomy-looking house in a sketchy part of town. We are in a dark room that smells like sweat. Before I can blink, he is on me. His fingers are wrapping around my throat. He holds me down, taking what he wants. His other hand is lost in my hair. He pulls it rough enough. It stings, bringing tears to my eyes. I want to scream for him to stop. I don't. Like I told you before, I'm sick inside. I hold myself hostage and force myself to lay still. I won't escape from this. I'll stay until I learn to love it. If I were a bit more human, this would be nothing for me. I'd love it all the same ways all the other humans do. It's only because I am a monster that I feel disgusting inside. The night sky is empty, abandoned by the moon, as we climb in the car for him to take me home. He tells me how captivated he is by my smile, how when he saw it for the first time, he felt like he was the only person left in the world. He asks me when he can see me again. I already know the answer as I climb from his car to the asphalt parking lot, glittering in the street light. The concrete stairwell swallows me into its many shadows, and I am indifferent to the fact I'll never see him again. Another week passes, and I am on her couch again, the therapist. I can feel the bruises on my thighs. There are marks all over my body she can't see, even as I sit in front of her. It's always like this. How often do we sit in front of another person's eyes, and they can't see the wounds covering us? It makes me laugh. Part of me thinks I should confess. I don't bother. You can't tell someone about the wounds you inflict on yourself. Wasn't I asking for it? How are we doing this week, Nicole? I'm fine. How are you? Small talk makes me gag. Even so, I've learned to play the game over the years. It's empty when someone asks you how you are. They ask, yet I promise, when you tell them what's really beneath your surface, they will avoid you after. We're all liars here. Monsters like me are more willing to admit the truth. Ironic, isn't it? How are the nightmares? My body clenches at her words, like she hit me. This is what I'm here for, I remind myself. I'm here to fix my disfigured mind, my malformed thinking, my disturbed existence. I'm here to become human again. He was in them, I admit. As soon as I say the words, he's there with me on the couch. He tucks loose pieces of hair behind my ear and drags me back to our memories together. You're such a pretty girl, Nicole. You know it, don't you? I am 10 years old again, and I nod. I love it when he makes me feel special like this. I am the only one he talks to this way. I mean so much to him. He places an innocent hand on my shoulder and then pulls with long fingers at the lace on my sleeves. Do you like this dress I bought for you? I love it, I tell him, while I give the white lacy dress a twirl for his viewing pleasure. I never knew my dad, so this relationship is special for me. Uncle Dean always goes out of his way to do nice things for my sake. No one has to tell me how lucky I am to have him take care of me. He pulls me onto his lap, where he tugs at my fly-away curls, twisting their chestnut-colored locks in his hands. People tell him all the time what a cute little girl he has. They tell me I look like him. It's almost as if I'm his daughter and not his niece. I've been thinking, Nicole, you are getting older now. And with what a pretty girl you're turning out to be, we have some things to talk about. I look at his eyes, a cold mixture of gray and blue, and hang on to his every word. I've noticed in the past the way people look at him when we go out together. His hair is blonde and wavy in a way that complements his fair skin. His shoulders are broad, and the arms he holds me with are strong with thick muscles. He's handsome. It's not just me who listens when he speaks. It's like the people around him can't help it. His words are always captivating. His smile makes you feel like you are the only person in the world. I'm proud he belongs to me. I'm worried boys will start giving you problems. He frowns, and it crushes me. I study his lips and wonder what's wrong with me, that boys will give me problems. I can't stand the look of displeasure on his face. I'll do anything to replace it with a smile. My fingers find the bottom of my dress where I tear at it helplessly. I can't let myself be a burden to him, not when he took responsibility for a child who wasn't his. I think it's important for me to teach you how to handle them for when you're older, don't you think? I nod, eager to cheer him up. You're a good girl, Nicole. I know you'll do fine. He leans in close to my ear, with my curls still twisted in his fingers. When you get older, men will expect you to please them. I don't want you to worry. I'll teach you how. I'll teach you everything you need to know. A voice startles me from my memories. Nicole? Nicole? Where did you go? I look up and see her, the therapist, the one who is supposed to hold all the answers to my questions, the angel who tells me none of this is my fault, and how I am not the monster he made me. I smile towards her as if I had been here on the couch with her the whole time. I smile as if I don't remember every single lesson he taught me. Is everything all right? Her eyes are concerned. You have tears running down your face. I lift a hand to my cheek and realize she's telling the truth. I touch the wetness with fingers that don't feel like my own. This happens to me all the time. I'm in my body, but I'm not. I don't understand where the tears come from either. After all, I am a monster. I'm numb. Whether I hurt others or make them laugh, I feel nothing inside me at all. This is a safe place, Nicole. I'm here to listen. I can't help finding her words amusing. I've been to safe places before, you see. That's where I discovered safe places are the most dangerous places of all. The places where you let down your guard and trust the people around you, leave you vulnerable. Those kinds of places are where monsters live. You enter them and never know they're watching you, waiting. They wait for the moments they can bury their claws into your flesh, taking things from you that you will never get back. Monsters are real, despite those who lack conviction. It's only fools who believe in safe places. Last night, I sat on my kitchen floor and ate an entire cake. I lie to her again. I couldn't stop myself. Don't you think that makes me disgusting? I can't tell if her sympathy is real or fake. I can't tell if she only has one face, the face she looks at me with, or if she too has another one buried deep inside her. I study her cheetah print shirt and the gold hoop earrings underneath her straightened hair. I can't tell if she's human or if she's another monster like me. We hide so well sometimes that we don't even recognize the monsters deep inside ourselves. Of course, I don't think that, she tells me. Her words offer me the smallest amount of relief. I feel myself relax for only a fraction of a second. It's all I can ever relax after I turned into this creature. I give her my best smile. You don't think I'm a monster? She reassures me she doesn't. I slide out of her heavy wooden door after the rest of our session has passed and remind myself she is a professional. If she saw a human without a beating heart in front of her, she would know it wasn't human anymore. The fact that she doesn't, it means there is still hope for me. Sacrifice. This is an adult story with language and content which may offend those easily offended. I can remember the sparkles. Sunshine on water. At the river, that warm day in late spring. I remember the droplets on her skin, and I remember her eyes, her huge, childlike eyes, deep brown and clear and innocent, still unaware of her beauty, a child. Her perfect sun-kissed legs. I couldn't keep my eyes off her. I thought, how long do I have? How long will it take her to finish her drink? Lips pouting round the rim. I didn't want it to end. A face like one of those perfect, golden, ratio faces that artists paint. Every single freckle was perfect, but she was real and was so beautiful it could have made me cry. And when she dived into the river, swam, ran on the bank, I watched her and I wanted her. I have skills, talents. Everyone knows I can charm, manipulate, lead them where I want them to go. Call me a wolf. But all wolves aren't the same. There is one kind with an amenable disposition, tame and gentle, following the young girls in the streets into their homes. The young girls don't know that these gentle wolves, out of all the wolves, are the most dangerous. Yes, I have skills. I know these girls. They go for the bad boy, and I am the likeness of a devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with great, large eyes, which in the night sparkle like fire, and a wide mouth with most sharp and cruel teeth, a strong body. They want me. They want the dangerous man. All the girls are racing to be the first to bleed, First to kiss, first to touch, first to fuck. It's not that they especially want any of these things, but they are terrified of being different, of being left behind. Stay with the flock, keep in time. She, as much as the others, terrified of not being the perfect girl, the girl who speaks quietly and calmly, who is always kind and nice, never mean or bossy. She who wants to fit in, not lead or lag. So, yes, I could have had her, led her there, like any of the others. But this one was different. I had imagined, her and I, something real. I could have shown her things, many beautiful things, and excitement too. It was a dream. I know it could never happen. Eventually I'd change, and it would all go bad. The moon or the season would call me, and I'd hurt her, knowing I didn't want to. It's too hard when it comes, not something you can fight. It just happens. They know that, the ones who choose the girl to wear the hood. In the end, they all know that in the end, the bloodlust prevails. Yes, I'd eat that heart, panting hot and raw. Eat that sweet, dainty morsel. I don't know why they had to send her, why they had to send this girl. Any girl would have been okay. Any young girl. Fresh, you know. They knew. I think they knew my feelings for her. They must have known when they chose her, when they gave her the robe and the hood, chose her as the virgin. And they knew when they sent her out. They knew she had to die like the others, like every year. Did that make it better? Stronger? They for sure didn't think of me. Why would they? None of them ever cared about me. Here we are on the path. Her rich cascade of auburn hair tumbling out from her hood. She's skipping, smiling, with that basket full of wine. Some bring cakes, bake things. But she knew her grandmother, and her grandmother, old hag, crept away. She knew what was coming. She left the door unlocked and sneaked into the forest, kept herself safe. That's not as she'll tell it, but that's how it was. Her name doesn't matter now. She is the blood, the offering. They've dressed her in the robe, the hood. She's on the path. Everyone knows where this ends. Everyone but her. They will speak of her by her robe. She had a name, Diani, sweet, soft Diani. Diani, always with a smile, and so generous it was close to foolish. Her name meant dear, fitting, perhaps, now. Now she is just the girl in the red hood. If she wasn't here, now, sometime later, she would have taken my hand and drawn it onto her breast, and it would have been sweet. In that cottage, on that bed, and she'd love the soft skin of my penis on her lips, and she'd smile when I shuddered as I came inside her, like a child given a gift. But this afternoon isn't going to end like that. I hate them for that. I want to call a pack and hunt them all down. They should fear me now. Those cruel men choosing her, making me do this, the worst thing, the worst part of this nightmare. What is destroying what soul I have left is I know she will taste good, good as she looks. I have always loved the way she looks. Pale skin and that mass of dark hair tumbling out from her hood. Those child eyes. Too big, really. Those dark brown eyes. A beautiful child face on a woman. I want to look into them and for her to see me. The real me, you know? Not just the teeth. How long has this gone on? Thousands of years. I have read. Yes, I do read. I am educated. I have read the Greek. Pausanias knew the how and why. Told the story in which, each year, a virgin girl was offered to a malevolent spirit, offered as a sacrifice. And this spirit, dressed in the skin of a wolf, raped and ate the girl. They will tell another story, one that ends well. The girl will be rescued. Wishful thinking. A better story for their guilt. A happy fairy tale. Keep out of the woods. Don't speak to strangers. No one will mention Diani. They will agree, without words, not to mention her. They won't admit they chose the story. They chose the girl. I will be the malevolent spirit. Everyone believes there's a malevolent spirit. What does that mean, malevolent? I don't hate her. I do what they want. I do it for them. Someone has to. Someone always has. 1,000 girls, 1,000 innocent young girls, 1,000 virgins. So their crops will grow. So their gods will smile. I don the skin, the rank smelling skin, and pull the fangs into my mouth. It will haunt me. Next year, and the years after, all I will see is her eyes. I will see my teeth in her eyes. Watch her last moments, her confusion, and the rising fear. Her scream as I take her. Remember her hair tumbling from her hood. Remember the soft, sweet taste on my lips. As we stroll through the woods, the flowers mock me. They cover the peaceful, sun-dappled glades. Bluebells crowding round the base of the trees like flirting girls. Sweet-smelling columbine in the glades. The dog violet line her path. Bow as she walks to her sacrifice. Take your time, pick some flowers, I say. It's a lovely day. I know I'm going to do this. I know the flowers will cover the smell of your fear and your blood when I take you. Will help cover the stench when my teeth rip open your stomach. The gods will smile. They're bastard smiling gods. And the villagers, they all know it's happening. Duplicitous, lying, cruel bastards. They will cover it up again. They will tell their tales like they always do. But they all know what big teeth I have and who I'm going to eat. Oh, Mother, please send my father across. It was all a dream. Merle's breath like rotten fish on top of her tongue. The balled up, gray, dead mass of it settled at the back of her throat like stale phlegm. His beady, stained tongue wriggling around on top of her tongue. His hand under her blouse, fumbling, scratching. His nails yellow and black and green, the sight of which made her vomit. His puss-filled, bandaged hand on top of her breast, the nail digging into her nipple, the dirt in his nails mixing with her blood. In her blood, the blood cool in the thick heat of the dark room, sweet, mixing with the scent of the vomit dried on the floor. She had dreamt it in the night, writhing like a dying fish, a pool of yellow sweat, unable to scream for all the phlegm in her throat, the fat tongue in her mouth, the eyes in the window. The eyes were from a long ago dream, black, a darkness darker than the black heat of the room, a self-eating darkness, turning inwards, 2 holes in the dark, like the memory of the snake's fangs on Amma's black skin. 2 eyes watching her, watching itself. 2 eyes, like holes in the heat. She could slip away, like vapor, like smoke, like the silver mist over the river. The river, black in the night, black and shining, winking like the silt around it, silver and loose, a million glinting eyes winking in the black night, the air ripe with the sour promise of raw mangoes, teasing and winking from the branches. Among them, the glinting brown eyes, cat-like of Muna, sitting on the branch naked, his long, cat-like body shining fluorescent, blue and violet, in the dark night. Ladki, he whispered to her, want a mango? His words tinged with the stale scent of a biedi, fishy. In the river, there were fishes as small as a dot, dark and invisible, holes in the river, moving eyes. The big fish did not swim. They stared at her, their mouths sending a bubble up the surface of the water, which burst with a quiet pop, waiting for her answer. Pop, 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 Munia, she asked. Not ripe yet, Muna said, and laughed, revealing a scurvy mouth with wiggling teeth, like maggots. With each shake, of the shoulder. A ha up and a he down. The teeth dropped down, raining like mangoes, too impatient, too ripe and restless, dropping with a pop, pop, pop as they dropped and popped down. The night black rats gathered them up and scuttled away. An undulating, shadowy tide, whispering, an underground, mousy susurrus, like the restrained gossip, sisak, sisak, of the leaves in the night wind, conspiring. Amma had said it was rubbish, that the aam tree was spiritless, spirits having no cravings for the mango. It was all make-believe, just whispers, conspiring. But this changed when she saw Muna's body, the penis chopped off, dangling from the tree. And now he was sitting beside it, kicking it absent-mindedly once in a while, so that it went swinging, a sawan swing scene. Munia began to sing now, bellowing in the night, quiet. Amma, mere baba ko bhejori, ki sawan aya. Mother, please send my father across. Now the rains have come. And with her voice, the rains came down, quiet at first, trickling down her forehead, down her back, like sweat, mixing with the sweat into a vaporous headache. But soon, as Munia's bellowing grew more hysterical, stretched and cracked, the rain gained violence, sheets after sheets crashing down on the earth. Dum-dum-dum, da-dum, da-dum-dum. There was no song in this rain, nothing sacred, no rhythm, no melody. It was the roar of primeval war drums, the shanknad breaking out of the sky's raging core, bloodthirsty, furious. The mango trees were screaming in anguish as their branches convulsed, epileptic, suicidal, wanting to break free, but the roots unyielding, circling tighter and tighter around their ankles, cutting off the blood, then cutting into the skin, circling tighter and tighter till they were bleeding. They were bleeding and screaming. Their blood washed out by the rain. The earth was bleeding. Pools of blood, pools of filth running down the mango grove, running down the fields, running down the streets, running down to the river, running down. She looked at Muna, hanging on to the branch, swinging in the rain, the noose getting tighter and tighter, choking, screaming out into the rain. Amma, mere baya ko bejori. She knew that the flow of the dream, the black river, with the pop-pop fish, with the mango carcasses, with the winking stars in its belligerent waters, was running down to the void, the shunya that was inside her, the void that she was made to cover with her sari and petticoat, her red bangles and black bindi, the red dye on her feet, and the toe rings which cut into her skin. The shunya that was a red field, with Amma's corpse lying among the bent-down barley, the teeth-girdled void inside her stomach, as she watched her running towards the mango grove in her shit-stained sari, the blouse torn off, running to the branch that was no longer weighed down by Muna's incomplete body, the void that no Baba, no Bhai, no Mama could cross, a bottomless pit. What could Sawan do? The shunya spelled out by the noose around Muna's neck. The shunya Murli was trying to prod with his puss-filled fingers and his puss-filled organ. The shunya that was a dream, the void that was this dream that was a void, flowing, rushing down into the night, to where the black river came to a halt at the dried-up vomit puddle, out of which she emerged into the dark room once again. Her body felt slimy, putrid, a mix of semi-digested rice, sweat, and the rotten substance of death. Murli's hands pressed tight around her neck, and her neck gave away, turning to sludge. Murli bent down and licked it up, his tongue abrasive, spiky, leaving scars for flies to lay their eggs on. Her breath started to go, and she could hear the thrashing of her heart in her ear, but she repeated to the beat of her thumping heart, "It is all a dream, a dream, a dream." It was all a dream, but it wasn't hers alone. It also belonged to Amma. It was a dream passed on to her, the only dowry Amma could muster, her inheritance. The dream belonged to Muna too. It was the dream that Amma spun out in the thick heat of the dark room, spinning and spinning. The thread of her word laced with her saliva, the strings of saliva that would purse her lips as she kept mumbling in the dark, spinning, her words indecipherable, a chant, a plea crying out into the night. Muna, Muna Munia Munia. It was the dream that Amma had spun out in the dark night, as the man whom they never called Baba filled the air of the room, humid with his sweaty appetite, heavy with his piggish grunts, filled it with the scent of his bidi, which would make Munia sick, filled it with the sight of gray tufts of hair pushing out of his ears, filled it with a heaviness that sat in their stomachs for days, stones in their chests, gray, a shame that stalked them and enwrapped them, entered their bodies, evacuated their innards, rendered their guts hollow, an all-consuming parasite, till they were all sludge, putrid and shameful, wobbly and shapeless, shadows, shunya, the dream that rose above this scent. These sounds, this heaviness, a light, weightless dream that her eyes caught a glimpse of as she had stood there, watching, her two eyes glinting in the window. Outside the window, Munaya and her counting the teeth that they had found this week, buried in the silt around the river, buried in the sand like shells, hollow, heavy with the weight of their own insouciance, their own lack, a self-inflicted negligence dropping out of mouths and scuttering around in the sand. Sometimes they found worms inside them, pink and white and sometimes green. They compared the shapes that they found. Munia claiming her finds to be sharper, while she rubbed hers against her thumb till it turned raw, certain of their supremacy. Sometimes she kept them in her mouth, swirled them around, the taste of dirt, metallic, sour. She sucked at them like at the stone of the Jaman. Now, Merle's teeth shifted around in her mouth, scuttling down her tongue into her throat, tasting of gutka and anger, scuttling down her body, digging, puncturing the skin, searching for the arteries. A group of three scuttled down and lodged into her vagina. And all she could think of was the teeth around the river and the necklace of teeth Munia made for Amma. The same necklace which she ate one tooth a time after each meal, her self-prescribed medicine. Outside the window, Munia and she were watching her with a gray feeling in the pit of their stomach, as Murli laid claim to each part of her body and signed it off with the mixture of her own blood and his own dirt. Outside the window, Munia and she became two eyes, superimposed, simultaneous. One, a palimpsest of dreams and bodies and voids and eyes, melted into one. He and her, she and him, her and her, peering in at her mother and her mother, dreaming, drifting out of the window through the holes their eyes burned through the darkness, peering in at herself, the dream of I, Amma, Munia, breathing in the dark. Our bellies swell out in a rhythm, up, down, up, down. Munia is not Muna now. She won't be Muna again till morning. When morning comes, she will have to leave herself beside me, wrapped up neatly on the pillow, leave this dream that Amma has spun for us, and cross the shore. But it is still night now. Amma is telling us the story of a king who lost all his kingdom, all of whose children died at his own hand by some cruel accident of fate, all of whose wives died of grief, all of whose citizens died of the plague, and all of whose army died at war. Now, what could such a man do in this world? He wandered around the ghost of his kingdom, dreaming. Munaya and I do not believe this story. We contend that such a man should die, would die, And can't death be a dream? Amma asks. I wake up. Merle is shaking. He is done. He turns around and goes off to sleep. I look out of the window. The sun has started to come up. I repeat to myself, it is all a dream, a dream, a dream from the catacombs. I open my bloodshot eyes and watch the shadows dance from the flickering torches hanging on the cold, dripping bricks. My legs and buttocks are numb, but I can't deny the annoying sensation coming from my right hallux. I see a pair of tiny red eyes looking up at me. My mind screams in silent terror as a piece of flesh is torn from just below my curved toenail. The rats are unrelenting in their quest for flesh. My long tenure in this malicious prison has eroded the cobblestone floor. Thick iron chains keep me anchored to the ground. And in this madness of delirium, not one soul can hear my screams. The moisture seeps into my skin, and words from my captors echo through my disillusioned conscience. You will beg for death in the end. For the past 2 years, my body has been rotting away, or at least, I think it's been that long. One tends to lose track of time when your freedom has been shackled. It's hard to discern reality from illusion. The mind creates walls to shield itself from unnecessary damage, but only after your psyche is shredded and hanging by a thread. Oh, the irony. I rub my lanky fingers down the ridges of my shirtless sternum until I reach the white, tattered rags tied around my bony hips. There, I find my salvation. A forgotten photograph the wretches missed during their extensive searches upon my arrival here. Seeing the brittle paper in the roaming light makes my lips curl upward. Ah, my beautiful Reina. Her exquisite cocoa eyes pierce my soul, and her soft red lips ignite a fire in my heart. Those tender sparks of love have kept my lungs expanding. I extend my trembling index finger and stroke her long black hair. Her skin, a sparkling diamond in the darkness. I remember the first time I laid eyes on my beautiful Reina. She sat beside me in English literature when I attended the University of Boston. I dropped my pencil, and she graciously dipped down to grab it for me. When our eyes met, I knew she was the one. The peace I felt told my soul there was no other woman for me. It was like coming home to a warm hearth. My universe exploded into a trillion shining stars, and the best part, she felt it too. Our wedding was filled with family, friends, and happiness. We said our personal vows and cried a river of tears. When it rained at the reception, we couldn't wait to dance in the deluge. As the cool droplets soaked our clothes and flowed down our bodies, we were reborn as one. Alas, the conflicts of a raging war in the Middle East pulled me away from Reyna when I was drafted by the military. We had our hopes set on having a baby, but those plans had to be postponed. Of course, Reyna supported me all the way, but I didn't want to leave her side. The training I had to endure was difficult, but I found solace in Reyna's love letters. I would receive one every week, and I, in turn, would send my love through the wire. We longed for the chaos to be over, so we could resume our lives. It was midwinter when the letters stopped through no fault of our own. I was placed on a secret mission with a group of 12 soldiers to infiltrate the enemy stronghold to seize top-secret files on a nuclear weapon. Everything was going smoothly until Captain Ziggy tripped an alarm on our way out of the complex. And needless to say, we were captured. I can imagine the pain and worry my dearest Reyna had to deal with, because I felt it too. How many oceans has she cried? Sergeant Radagon tortured us for days and wanted to know why we were there and who we were working for. I wouldn't say a word, not even when they threatened to cut my tongue out. Thank goodness it didn't come to that, but I fear my time is running out. One by one, the cries of my fellow comrades grew silent until I was the last man standing. A second pair of elongated teeth biting my peripheral nerve remind me of the horrific reality I find myself in. I shuffle my feet and watch the mangy rodents scatter. I hear the weary sound of boots stomping toward me and take a deep, shuddering breath. A robust man with great authority steps into my view, holding a brown bowl and a lit torch. It's Sergeant Radagon. My dinner has arrived. Hungry Godwin, you'll need your strength to endure the pain to come, because I'm not finished with you yet. My questions will be answered. With that, the sweaty man tosses the bowl at me. The smell of molded oatmeal tickles my nostrils and makes my nose hairs retreat in defeat. My skin crawls like 1,000 insects searching for a new home. As Radagon leaves with a deep chuckle, I cup my hands and scoop what I can. The taste is horrible, but it will give me the energy to do what I must. I wait for darkness to come and know this from the stampede above my head. The guards are more active during the day. At night, they're all but absent. I glance at Reyna's picture and remember the first time we kissed. We were walking at the Pittsburgh Zoo when Reyna stumbled on a stray rock. I caught her before she hit the ground, and as our eyes met, we pressed our lips together. The planet's axis spun loose and found a new home in us. Those were happy times, and my soul aches for more precious memories. But there will be time for that later. Right now, I have work to do. I put her picture back into the rags they call my clothes, and wait. A sudden tickle disturbs my sleeping toes. The rats are back. I watch tiny red eyes and long whiskers flicker around my feet. When I feel teeth stab my skin, I lean forward and snatch the intruder with my bare hands. I hold the rat to the flickering light and wince at the terrified squeals. Well, my little friend, I'm sorry about this, but there is no other way. Crack! I snap the rat's neck and let the blood paint the shackles around my wrists. I've grown quite skinny, so all I needed was a little lubrication. After tossing the rodent to the side, I work my hands back and forth until I'm free from the bonds. I gently lay the links on the floor and stand. My joints pop like snapping twigs, but I ignore the pain. My muscles forgot what it was like to stand. The chains kept me anchored to the floor with little slack where I had to sleep in my own filth. The pain feels great. It reminds me I'm alive. In the corner of my eye, I see a rumbling mound growing in the dark corner. I reach to the wall and grab a torch. Casting a glow, I see 100 rats eating their fallen friend. They don't appreciate the light and hiss at me. You nasty fiends! I use the uneven bricks in the wall as a crutch until I reach a narrow corner. I realize now, more than ever, that this catacomb is a maze. The light reveals a horde of rats in every direction. How can there be so many? The smell of rotting flesh mixed with rancid sewage makes me vomit. I have my answer. The rodents are quick to clean up the mess, and I use the opportunity to move further into the abyss. About halfway down the corridor, the jugular veins in my neck throb in protest. The confined space spins to mock me, and my heart drops like a bowling ball. I close my eyes and reach for Raina's photo. Through the slits of my peripheral view, I see my angel. My mind ventures back to the first time we made love. We were nervous. The fact that we were saving ourselves for that moment still amazes me. I remember the warm blanket of peace and understanding that enveloped us. Our fears were eroded away, and even though we had no clue about what we were doing, our instincts and passions led the way. As we became one, that journey met a happy, climatic ending and marked the beginning of our sexual revolution. It was all about trust in ourselves and each other. I place Raina's picture back into my loincloth and smile. Through uncertain circumstances, we always find a way to keep going. We need to believe in ourselves. I must get back to her. With renewed motivation, I place one foot in front of the other and wobble through the wavy light. The rodents hound my every step. As long as the flame burns bright, the little monsters keep their distance. I weave through the dark labyrinth, only to find more rats chewing on the carcasses of people who would never be identified. I wonder if any of them were my fellow soldiers. Rounding another bin, I hear a clanking sound and quickly discover a bald man anchored to the wall with boils all over his skin. Please, help me. I narrow my eyes and ask, "What's wrong with you? Are you diseased?" "No. I need the light to shine upon my skin once more, and all my ailments will be cured." I wave my torch up and down his flabby skin and see a spider burrow into one of the pustules. I take a few steps back and grab my heart. Good heavens, what madness is this? In my hasty retreat, I rush by another torch and inadvertently erase the flame. It was the only light shining on the plagued man. With the fire gone, I hear his screams first. "No! Get them off me! Help!" The sound of 100 scampering paws makes me cringe. As the rats eat the man's tarnished flesh, I turn away and take no pleasure in this madness. My journey must continue. I whisk around another corner and see a dangling man with a hollow chest. I extend the torch and gasp. It's Captain Ziggy. He looks like he was left to starve to death. I poke his arm, and an army of hungry rats storm out from the hole in his sternum. I withdraw quickly and fumble for Raina's picture. I need her inspiration now more than ever. The memory of buying our house washes over my trembling mind. That small 2-story shack needed a lot of work, and I didn't want to bother with it. Raina told me the foundations were strong, and that's all that mattered. We worked hard to rebuild everything and made that place a home. It was a castle fitting for a king and queen. Faith, love, determination, hard work, and willpower were all we needed. I replace the keepsake with renewed vigor, bite my lower lip, and trudge on. After what seems like an endless journey, I stop when I see a staircase down a long, curvy hallway, bathed in light. It's the exit. A dozen skeleton bodies line the walls like Halloween decorations, and I wonder what wicked fate they must have encountered to deserve deaths like that. I take out Raina's picture once more and kiss it. My sweet angel, if I can reach the light, if I can escape this hellish prison, I will be in your arms again. Please, give me the strength. A distant memory slaps my face. Raina and I went rock climbing in the Appalachian Mountains, and I remember coming to a gap I couldn't cross. Raina, being the fearless warrior, tossed her rope across the chasm and swung across. She urged me to do the same, which I did, but it took a lot of coaxing. "You can do it, my love." I harnessed her encouragement and made it in the end. Nothing is impossible as long as you have love and courage. As I step forward, I see thousands of rats in the darkness. A sea of hungry ruby eyes yearning for me to make a wrong move. I glance at my torch and see the cherry embers growing dull. I don't think the flames will carry me through this nightmare. If only Reyna was here to toss me a rope. You can do it, my love. Reyna's words ignite a new fire in my gut. The time for thinking is over. If I toss the torch and run for the bright staircase, I might make it out of here. Here goes nothing. I will get back to you, my sweet Reyna. I throw the torch to the middle of the hallway and watch the rats scatter like flies. My legs scream in holy agony as I run for the staircase. I don't look at the menacing creatures, but my ears can't deny their screeching protests. My eyes stay locked on the prize ahead. And as I reach the top of the staircase, the light stabs my eyes like a million suns. The toxic fumes of nicotine smoke pierce my lungs like a sharp spear. Well, where do you think you're going? Have you come to give me some answers? I know the voice well. It belongs to the man who killed my fellow soldiers, Sergeant Radagon. I keep my mouth shut, and while I can't see much, I can tell his face is flushed like a red tomato. Wait, it's not a tomato. It's a cigarette. Ah, now I will burn out your eyes for trying to escape. I shuffle my feet to the side as the hot cherry comes closer to my pupils and hear a raging ruckus as Radagon trips on my blistered feet and crashes down the stairs. He lands in the middle of the hallway where my dying torch screams its last breath. The red eyes are ever watchful, and the next thing I hear is a blood-curdling shriek of horror as the rats eat him alive. I pull out Reyna's picture and smile, because I know my beloved wife is waiting for me with open arms. As the sound of 1,000 chomping mouths echo in the abyss, I stumble out from the catacombs and into the light. Unrefined thirst. Fresh squeezed today, the bartender said, slapping the husky steel barrel behind him. He smiled, his hollow features shadowed by the dim pendant lights over the bar. From his stool, Victor looked down the bar counter. He saw the males with their stark white shirts and freshly pressed slacks, shiny hair slicked neatly behind their ears. They mingled with flirtatious females, elegant dresses in midnight blues and wine-colored reds. The guests drank from cups. The liquid's rousing scent permeated the tavern. Victor's hands quivered as he watched them drink. Was it 3 days since he'd last had a sip? 4? The thirst boiled inside him, but discipline was paramount. He shook his head at the bartender. Cup of bubble water, raising an eyebrow. The bartender leaned in to meet Victor's gaze. By the looks of you, you need a drink, lad. You're paler than the moon. Victor wasn't sure why he chose to make his abstinence difficult. When curing an addict, they say to make it easy, remove all temptations. To enter the belly of the beast was self-restraint suicide. Perhaps it was to prove a point. If he could do it here, he could it anywhere. Maybe it was still too early in his sobriety, but he knew the cause was worth it. He had to do this. He had to know it could work. He shook his head again, tapped his fingers on the bar. Please, just bubble water. The bartender's sunken eyes lingered. You ain't one of those puritanicals, are you? Think you're all high and mighty by taking the pledge? Victor tightened his jaw, opened his mouth to comment. But before the words left his lips, he caught himself. Breathe in, breathe out. That's the first lesson when dealing with temptation. Control your breath. He closed his eyes, breathed the metallic scent of the bar, the soft notes of a piano mixed with the steady chatter of the guests. A voice inside screamed for a drink, but he would choose not to listen. He was better than the carnal needs of his biology. He opened his eyes. I'm no puritanical, just someone requesting bubble water. Is that too much to ask? The bartender eyed him suspiciously. He poured a cup of bubble water, placed it in front of Victor. You know they ain't right, those puritanicals. We've been drinking it since the beginning of time. You think by abstaining, you're a better person. Like you're saving lives or something. I told you, Victor said, sipping his bubble water. I'm no puritanical, and that one there ain't a blend salesman. The bartender thumb gestured to a male at the end of the bar, chatting cocksure between two females. He wore the usual salesman attire, black suit and tie. Oxfords shined to a sheen. Behind sharp cheeks, he grinned, his milky teeth visible even in the muted light. The females grasped his arms on either side, giggled at his jokes with contrite. The scum of the earth, Victor thought. Big earners with mammoth egos. The blend salesmen were the antithesis of everything Victor stood for. All the work he had done to balance the scales, to build justice in the world. And all they cared about was the paycheck, the females, and satisfying their thirst. Them puritanicals ain't big fans of them blend salesmen, the bartender said. You don't look impressed with that one. Victor grimaced. He couldn't reveal his allegiance here. Who knew who could be listening? But in a moment of irritation, perhaps the abstinence was clouding his judgment. Perhaps he was exhausted from years of bickering with heartless morons. He lashed out. And what if I was one? What if I did take the pledge? The moment the words left his lips, he regretted it. A few bar patrons looked over. The bartender stepped back. As he rag-dried the hollow of a cup, he dissected Victor with his eyes. You would have to leave. Yes, sir. Ain't having none of your kind in here. You come to my bar, you drink the fresh squeeze. Victor looked at the stout steel drum. erected like a monument behind the bar. The keg tap was polished to a sparkle. He felt his innards squirm in discomfort. As loathsome as the contents were, the thirst intensified inside him. He pulled his eyes away. "Tell you what," said the bartender. He lifted a cup, opened the keg tap, filled the cup to the brim with liquid. "You have a sip of this, and you can stay. I know you ain't really one of them puritanicals." He placed the cup beside Victor's bubble water. Victor looked into the cup. The liquid sat in a delicious, dark pool. "Willpower," he thought. "You can do this." But the metallic scent flooding his nostrils was overbearing. A deep, primal lust took hold, and the thirst spoke within. "Just a sip. All the good you've done, you deserve one sip." Beads of sweat formed on his brow. The bar grew hot and stifling. He peeled his collared shirt from his skin. "I won't drink that," he whispered under his breath. The bartender leaned forward, placed both forearms on the bar. "You're sweating, lad. It's just a sip. It's in our genes, you know. We can't live without it." He nudged the cup forward so that it was under Victor's nose. The smell overpowered him, entranced him in a mesmerizing grip. The bar chatter dampened to a muffle. The piano's notes hollowed as if underwater. A haze blurred the periphery of his vision. It was just him and the cup, the dark liquid reaching with tempestuous hands. The thirst was shrieking, "Drink, drink, drink." Victor's hands shook uncontrollably. Discipline, he thought, his logical mind trying to override his thirst. You cannot control your environment, but you can control your choices. His hands were drawn forward like a stringed puppet. Inches from the cup, they shook harder, rattling like jackhammers. The thirst howled maddeningly. The compulsion was too great, the thirst too loud. His hands closed around the cup. Lifting it, he brought the screaming contents toward his lips, and then the bar door slammed open. A loud thud shook the room, and the cold night wind poured in. "Found one on the outskirts," a gruff voice said. Victor, along with the rest of the bar's guests, rotated on their stools to the open door. Two figures entered. The first was a husky male decorated head to toe in furs. Between two beady eyes, his nose protruded from his face like a crow's beak. The second was a human, dark hair matted over her face. Her hands were bound in front of her. She was naked, her body mud-caked. Through the thick grime that covered her face, skittish eyes flitted across the room. Crownose gripped her by the hair, dragged her roughly into the dim bar light. He kicked the back of her leg with a boot, and she fell to her knees. Still room in the keg, Lonnie? Crownose said, tugging at the woman's hair. Lonnie, the bartender, spread his arms wide. Typhus, I see the night's hunt was successful. With guests are thirsty as ours, we will make room. Found her on the outskirts, you said? Aye, fiddling with our sunshades. Escaped from the juicing farm, this one. Sure smells like it. Is she marked? Left wrist. Traced her to old Galaban's farm. Lonnie laughed. That old sack can't keep them in. I'm surprised the Regency hasn't shut him down. Typhus furrowed his brow. Unfortunately so. Will be harder to find strays for the fresh squeeze. His eyes met the great steel barrel behind the bar. Hard work for Typhus? Come now, have a drink, lad. You're in good company. And you've brought entertainment for the night. Bartender Lonnie gestured to the well-dressed patrons lining the bar counter. Guests, see what our trapper Typhus has brought us? Lonnie's Tavern hires the best. Drinks and a show tonight. The guests at the bar muttered in agreement. Lonnie handed out fresh drinks from the keg. The pianist increased the tempo of their melody. The chatter in the bar amplified, buzzing voices mingling with clinking cups. Victor watched the salesman at the end of the bar drape his arms around the two females. As he whispered in their ears, they chortled with delight. Typhus dragged the dirt-caked human to a pole in the middle of the tavern. He chained her bound hands to the pole. Victor watched her fearful eyes scan the room. The bloodwood ceiling, the pendant lights, the silver-haired pianist in the corner, the great steel keg shimmering like a shrine. Her eyes flitted from guest to guest, the males in their white button-ups, the females in their ornate dresses. As her eyes met Victor's, he had to look away. Her gaze was horrific. It had a haunted quality, like a creature that had suffered untold misery. To look her in the eye was to give this whole charade permission. Victor noticed he was still clutching the cup of keg liquid between his palms. Looking down into the cup, he met his reflection in the dark pool of liquid. His gut roiled with revulsion. Turning away, he put the cup onto the bar. "It begins," Typhus shouted, sipping a cup, strutting across the bar in his furs. "A live juicing, here, in none other than Lonnie's Tavern." The guests were all standing now, facing the center of the room, drinking from their cups. The tavern grew quiet. The voices drowned. The pianist stopped playing. "Bring me the fangs," Typhus roared. From behind the bar, Lonnie hefted a large black case and plopped it onto the counter. He snapped the latches open and lifted the fangs from their case. The metal glimmered under the pendant lights. It was a set of steel jaws, edges serrated, with two knife-like incisors projecting from each jaw. Clear tubes led from the jaws to a thigh-sized collection tank. Typhus took the fangs from Lonnie and moved toward the woman. She shifted on the bloodwood floor, tried to stand, but the grime clutching her body caused her to slide onto her backside. She let out an animalistic yelp. As Typhus approached, she moved behind the pole, attempting to hide from the fangs. The spectators laughed. They clinked their cups and drank. Anticipation etched on their faces. Typhus opened the fangs, the incisors sparkling. As he brought them forward, Lonnie cut in. "Hold on, Typhus." Typhus stopped mid-stride. "We've got one of them puritanicals in our midst," Lonnie said. Typhus, along with the rest of the guests, turned to Lonnie. The room was silent. Lonnie pointed a thick finger at Victor. "Right here, this one, drinking the bubble water." All eyes were on Victor, loathing carved into their faces. Typhus spat on the floor. "A puritanical here?" Victor's pulse began to hammer. Typhus grinned maliciously, lips curling around the end of his crow's beak. "It's a pity, those who choose to abstain. It's a flawed ideology. We were built for blood. It's in our DNA." Victor wanted to say something, wanted to defend himself, defend his cause, but he couldn't find the words. His lips were too dry, his throat too tight. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He closed his mouth. Typhus smiled. "Looks like abstinence has silenced our high and mighty." The room laughed. Victor felt beads of sweat roll down his forehead. They would kill him if they knew the truth, especially in the presence of a trapper. Others could sometimes be reasoned with. They could see the harm they were causing the humans. They would disagree, of course, and would still choose to satisfy their thirst. But they would leave you to your own. You have your point of view. I have mine, they would say. Trappers were not like that at all. Puritanicals must be eliminated at all costs. That was the trapper philosophy. "I'm not a puritanical," Victor lied. "They are a disgrace to our kind." It made him sick saying it, but he knew it needed to be said. A murmur stirred amongst the bar patrons. "Then why haven't you taken a sip of my fresh squeeze?" Lonnie said. His sunken eyes were dark, hollow pits. "Prove it to us." He pushed the keg cup toward Victor. "I have a better idea." It was the salesman's voice this time, smooth and mocking. The two snickering females were still ensnared beneath his languorous arms. He should juice her, make him do it. Victor's stomach dropped. He wanted to vomit, to hurl his insides onto the bloodwood floor. Didn't they understand? It didn't have to be like this. There were other methods, ethical methods. There was the stem cell research the Puritanical Foundation had invested in. It was no longer in its infancy. Soon, human blood could be cultivated in a lab, so juice farms wouldn't need to exist. And there was the alternative blood. Beyond blood. Sure, it didn't taste quite the same, but they were improving the formula every month. He knew the technology would take time, but even if juicing was necessary in the meantime, why did it have to be done this way? Why were there some who would put slaughter on display as a testament to our kind? Why was the world so raw and ruthless? Couldn't we see that humans suffered just as we did? Typhus held out the fangs, fur boots clopping toward Victor. You heard the lad? Victor hesitated, felt a fist squeezing at his insides. Typhus was now beside him, placing the fangs in his limp hands. You're as pale as milk, Typhus whispered in his ear. I know that thirst within. They were all looking at him. Typhus, Lonnie, the patrons, the human. It was as if he were in a prison. Garlic and silver and sunlight closing in from all sides. He knew if he did not perform the act, if he did not return to his violent roots, what he was made to be, the room would destroy him. They would tear into him with their hungry fangs, ripping flesh from bone like a pack of lions. And they would juice the human anyway. They would take her life just as fast as they took his. Is refusal worth it? How many human lives could he save in the future if he walked out of here alive? How much good could he do if he could continue the puritanical cause? Victor stepped forward. He carried the jaws in one hand, held the collection tank in the other. The human squirmed on the ground, slipping along the floor with her muddy body. Her wide eyes were filled with fear. She tried to pull away, but the chain held her to the pole. Typhus made the job easier. He sliced the woman's thigh with a knife. She screamed, rivulets of blood flowing from the wound. Blood. Fresh cut, human blood. Victor's nostrils flared, and the heavy metallic scent flooded in. It was intoxicating. I'm made for this, he thought. This is how we were built. Blood was his life force, and a vampire needed its feed. He was inches from her now. He placed the collection tank on the floor, and with both hands, opened the fangs. He positioned them over her gashed thigh, prepared to crush down, to bite the metal viciously into her flesh. Victor smiled at her, bared his teeth, fangs glinting in the dim light. His hands were steady, more steady than they've ever been. And then he looked into her eyes, those haunted eyes, those tortured eyes. They screamed at him, shrieked, cursed, howled as loud as eyes could howl, and he felt everything. It's strange, Victor thought, as he crushed the fangs closed, how some do what's right, even when it's the worst possible decision. The chain snapped in two. The vampires came at him. Witches get stitches. The tea house was full of women sipping from cups and pouring from various teapots. Mona, Heptonstall, winced. She didn't have any money to buy a drink. She didn't have any money at all. She was only a young schoolgirl. But the sight of all these women put her at ease a little. And God knew that she needed somewhere to feel safe right now. Mona ducked into the shop, past the few tables outside, occupied by little old ladies sitting in the shade. The aroma inside the tea house was exotic and familiar, exciting and cozy. Steam wafted from the rims of mugs, none of which were matching. It was as though the owner had put serious effort into ensuring all crockery sets were different. Women sat clustered into groups and pairs, chatting away. Some sat solo, unconcerned with their lack of company. They smiled, contented and closed-eyed, into the sunshine while sipping their brews. On the walls, various posters and flags hung. There was something about flowers and plants here. There was something about animals being friends there. The symbol for females, the circle above a cross, was here. Rainbow flags and a flag with light blue, pink, and white stripes hung there. Plant pots housed a forest's worth of greenery, growing in every direction. The flowers crawled up stakes and dangled from shelves, and dog-eared books about cooking, herbology, feminism, and equal rights were everywhere. Mona's thudding heart slowed, and her stitched-up eyebrow settled into a steady pulse. This tea house was a nice place, a good place, one that she imagined that Grubby Gilbert wouldn't think to check. She glanced over her shoulder out the window into the sun-drowned street outside. Grubby Gilbert Boyd came plodding along as if on cue, a frown etched upon his bovine countenance. His pot belly bounced as he slowed to a trot, his head jerking around like a pigeon's. A bead of sweat trickled down his forehead. Beneath his food-stained shirt, his chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His eyes passed over the tea house, and he didn't seem to register it was there. Then he moved on. A few seconds later, Gilbert had passed the shop and disappeared down the street. She couldn't help but grin at the boy's stupidity. If only it were always that easy to escape his chubby fingers. Everyone, her teachers and parents, said he only picked on her because he liked her. He pushed her and pulled her and tripped her up because he fancied her. To Mona, this had made no sense whatsoever. First, why would you do those things to somebody you liked? Second of all, what kind of excuse was that? She had to endure this unhappiness because of the reason behind his actions. Besides, even if he had asked her out, she didn't think he was all that interesting or good-looking. She wasn't interested. When she'd split open her eyebrow after he'd stuck his leg out last week, she hoped that'd be the end. Alas, Grubby Gilbert didn't give up. She stepped to the side to watch him trot down the street. She walked right into a table whilst she gazed in the opposite direction. Mona squeaked, timid like a mouse, as time slowed around her. The table toppled over. The mugs crashed to the floor and disintegrated, spilling hot tea over the rug. The flowery doily drifted to the ground, where the liquid stained it brown. The two women flinched backwards from the carnage and squealed. They escaped the flying china unscathed, but lost their beverages to gravity. Mona gasped, wide-eyed, hands raised in self-defense. Oh no. Oh no. 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 This accident was not good. Not good at all. She had no money, nothing with which she could make amends. She tried to think, speak, and act. But fear rooted her to the spot. A woman with a tea towel draped over her shoulder came marching up to the scene. The woman was tall and had an out-there fashion sense. Her long hair, which she'd tied up into a bun, she'd dyed electric blue. Her eyebrows and her eyes were coffee brown. Tattoos crawled up both arms, under the sleeves of her dress, and up the sides of her neck. The dress was black, with a flowery design, both gothic and summery. A hoop dangled from her nose, and more piercings than Mona had ever seen dotted her ears. She took the tea towel and dropped it into the puddle, which disappeared. Before Mona could blink, the table was upright, its doily pristine, and the mug shards were gone. The blue-haired woman called to a younger girl who was busy behind the counter. "Sabrina, another ginger tea and a peppermint tea for this table, please. On the house, of course." Mona shriveled before the sight of her. Adults always seemed big. Despite being no taller than the other grown-ups, this woman seemed like a giantess. Some unknown qualities made her presence more clear. She squeezed her hands together, averted her eyes, and awaited the tongue lashing. "I'm Alice Wallaker, and this is my tea house. Do you mind answering a few questions? Oh God, oh God, oh God. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a stupid idiot. Alice silenced her with a wave of her hand. She smiled. "Never mind about that, Mona. Don't cry over spilt milk. Unless if it's for a black cat. What's your name, sweetie?" Something cold and jagged inside Mona began to melt. Calmness washed over her. She looked up into those warm brown eyes and didn't see the hostility she expected to find. "I'm Mona Heptonstall." Alice's eyes rolled over her every feature, settling on the stitches in her eyebrow. An odd look sparkled behind her kind eyes. "And what's his name, Mona?" Mona took a sharp inhale of breath. How did she know? Mona debated lying and telling Alice that there was no him. She was fine, and nothing was wrong. She soon abandoned this, then entertained the thought of giving the woman a fake name. But then that flittered away like a bat on the night's breeze. In the end, Mona told the truth. Gilbert Boyd. Alice wrinkled her nose as though she knew the boy already. She inhaled through her nose, then out through her mouth. She bent down, picked up her tea towel, now bone dry, and slung it over her shoulder again. Come with me. Uh-oh. Here it came. This point was the moment that Ms. Wallaker would call the police, and they'd take her away. The cops would call her school, and the school would tell her parents. She'd be in so much trouble because she wanted to escape Grubby Gilbert. Alice ushered her through the packed tea house with a gentle hand on one shoulder. It seemed that every pair of eyes watched them go with hungry curiosity. And something else was in those gazes, too. Alice took her into the back of the tea house, past the telephone. Mona opened her mouth to ask, but then closed it again. Alice opened a door near the back of the building and led her down a beautiful wooden staircase. Despite their descent, the sunlight seemed to grow stronger. It shined through windows that should have been underground. She pushed open a grand pair of double doors and brought her into. Mona frowned. A library? Alice turned to face her. She stretched her hands out either side of her, as if reaching for the walls. Behind her, shelves of books stretched on for an impossible distance. Here and there bustled all kinds of women. They scanned shelves and pored over forgotten tomes. Some looked happy and healthy. Others looked battered and bruised. Expressions ranged from interest to anger. A middle-aged woman with a black eye gritted her teeth and flicked through the pages of a thick book. Nearby, a granny chuckled into her stack of open books, mumbling about teaching the bugger. Yes, said Alice, a library. A special library, a secret library containing hidden knowledge for people like us. Like us? Alice smiled. Women. Now, Mona understood what had been in the eyes of all those women as Alice took her through the tea house. Sympathy. Sympathy and understanding. They'd all been in similar positions before, too. They knew how it felt. And when they saw a little girl experiencing the same, they couldn't help but send their hearts to her. Her mouth dried up. Only for women, Alice nodded, then turned and beckoned her. Come. We can find something to help your predicament. We have a little something for everyone, from ailments to revenge. But something gentler might be a good starting point for you. Mona paused. You're going to help me? But I wrecked your tea house. Alice surprised her by laughing. Oh, Mona, you didn't wreck anything. Besides, you were seeking shelter, weren't you? Well, you found it. Mona found herself laughing too. A few minutes prior, she'd never felt less like laughing. But being around this woman had eased her wounded heart. It was as though she were magic. She stopped dead in her tracks. Are you? Alice turned, eyebrows raised, mischief written in the color of her cheeks. She said nothing and waited for Mona to ask. She blurted it out. Are you a witch? Alice's eyes danced. Why, of course. All the best women are. She'd expected to feel terror, coldness, claustrophobia. This woman was into the dark arts. Alice practiced magic and witchcraft. She ought to be frightening. And yet, she wasn't. At least, not to Mona. But she thought Alice could be scary to the right or wrong kind of person. The sort of person like Gilbert Boyd. And the types of people Gilbert Boyd would grow up into if left unchecked. But to Mona, she felt as if an umbrella of love had opened over her head. Not only was the rain no longer falling on her, but the sun shone through the material. Mona followed the witch deeper into the library. What kind of help, Ms. Wallaker? Alice hummed and scanned the shelves, pointing at them as if eyeing a police lineup. At last, she said, "Aha," and produced a book from a shelf. It wasn't quite Baby's First Seance or Witchcraft for Dummies, but close enough. A beginner's book, an entry point into the dark arts. Only, were these arts dark? Or had men labeled them as such? Mona took the book, feeling the weight of power crackling through her fingertips. She couldn't help but utter a contented sigh. Alice opened the book and slid a finger down the index page, tapping on certain words. Like this, Mona. There's some powerful stuff in here. Stuff that I wouldn't share with a boy, no matter how old he was. But you can handle that responsibility, can't you, Mona? Mona decided that she could. Jingles. I moved the knife quickly, slicing with apt purpose. The bell of the cat's collar fell to the floor. Jingle, jingle. This was the third time I've done this since we first got this cat. I just can't stand the jingling of the collar, and I wanted it to look like the cat had somehow clawed it off, or had rubbed it against something outside, causing it to scrape off. Hopefully, my family will stop insisting that the cat have a bell on her collar after realizing she's just going to keep losing it. Nothing against the cat, of course. Each time I cut that bell off of her collar, she just looks up at me curiously, possibly even thankfully, as if she too can't stand the sound of its jingling. Though I'm certain that the cat and I hate the sound of small jingling bells for two very different reasons. My wife, our 3 kids, and I recently moved to my old hometown. I was eager to leave this place as soon as I turned 18, and I couldn't explain to my wife why I didn't want to move back. The same reason why I can't explain to her why I hate the sound of jingling. I was just a kid. One summer here, when I was 12, my friends and I were hanging out on Main Street. "I want strawberry," the little kid exclaimed. They were probably 6 or 7, and they bounced excitedly up and down with a shining grin from one ear to the other, their hands raised up, one clenched around a handful of change. They were smiling adoringly up at the clown, who was dancing in front of an ice cream truck. Turning to the little boy with a smirk and a wink, the clown sang, "For $1, 1 strawberry. I've prepared it for you, especially." The clown was tall and slender. The makeup around his face was white with dark pink triangles around his mouth as well as his eyes, which were both wide and kind. He wore a large sky blue drape over a striped unitard with different shades of gold and purple with bright red accents. He wore a thick belt around his waist. At points around this belt, as well, from threads of the blue drape hung small, brass and shiny bells, which rang a chorus of jingling with every movement, and sang a nameless tune whenever he danced. And how this clown loved to dance. "Mr. Jingles! Mr. Jingles!" another kid cried. "Can I have an ice cream sandwich?" The clown, Mr. Jingles, widened his eyes as he looked down at her. He took a deep breath as his smile grew and said, "You're the first today to say my name. This one is for free." He gave her a free ice cream sandwich and did another dance as his feet kicked out, revealing 2 more jingling bells, each one attached to the tip of each of his curled shoes. He did little magic tricks with his hands, and all the children around him laughed and cheered. Some even tried mimicking his dance around him. My friends and I sat on our bikes at a distance, watching the laughable spectacle. "I betcha he diddles kids," Richie said with a snort. "Nah," Brady retorted. "My mom says he's retarded. He probably doesn't even know what to do with his junk." We all laughed at that. I scoffed, saying, "Whatever his problem is, he's fucking creepy." "Ain't that the truth?" Levi said. "I can't be the only one who wants to do something about this guy." Each one of us turned to look at Levi. We didn't really have a leader, but if there was ever a title holder for lead troublemaker, it was Levi. We knew he had something brewing in his mind ever since he first saw Mr. Jingles, and I was eager to stick it to that clown. "What you thinkin'?" I asked, a mischievously wide smile growing on my face. "Simple," Levi said coldly. "We fuck with the clown until he leaves, and we make sure he stays gone." I had the simple job of distracting the clown. I thought this was the dumbest role placement in the history of pranks, seeing as I was never much of an actor. So when I walked up to Mr. Jingles, I just did what first came to my mind and started asking questions. "Hey, clown, what flavors you got?" Mr. Jingles whirled in my direction. The quickness of that sudden movement and my proximity to him, I realized I was much more scared of this clown than I had initially thought I ever could be. "Little kiddo," Mr. Jingles exclaimed, "I've got flavors to match the rainbow." He kicked a leg out in a small dance maneuver. "I've got sweets to make your hair grow." He laughed. "I've got strawberry and chocolate, and long as you've got your wallet, I've got vanilla and mint, with a flashy green tint. There's pistachio and Neapolitan, but try not to get it on your chin." He laughed and chuckled, and that innocent sound within it made me start to think that maybe he didn't deserve to get ran out of town. I couldn't explain it, but he soothed me. All the fear and enmity I felt towards the clown seemed so unjustified now. But it was too late. Richie and Brady started banging against the hood of the ice cream truck while making guttural monkey noises. Mr. Jingles turned, his wide smile melting away in a thin line of confusion. He walked over to my friends, saying, "Heyo, kiddos, how about, and was cut off when the truck's engine started. The clown's head turned, and his mouth opened to a wide O of shock as he looked through the windshield. Levi was in the driver's seat and had turned on the truck. He started to run and shouted, "Oh no, kiddo, Mr. Jingles doesn't think," and was interrupted again when Richie pushed the clown over Brady, who was knelt behind him. The two ran away laughing. I was about to run too, and that's when I realized that Levi had more planned for what was meant to be a spread-out string of pranks on Mr. Jingles. As the clown gasped on the pavement, Levi revved the engine and then put the car in drive. He dove out of the side of the truck and sprinted down the block, faster than I'd ever seen him run before. I turned back, just in time to watch as Mr. Jingles's ice cream truck ran over his midsection. This caused the vehicle to swerve, forcing the rear tires to crush the clown's face. The body of the clown convulsed and spazzed, a monstrous ringing of disturbed jingling from the bells overlaid the tones of crushing bones, and a sound like that of a tossed watermelon. I was motionless and numb in indescribable horror as the vehicle rolled softly away, and I looked at the smeared remains of what used to be a human face. Blood gushed spastically out of a gaping maw that was once the mouth of Mr. Jingles, and more of it oozed out of his ears and coagulated in the ruffled tangles of his dyed pink hair. I stepped back, slowly at first, then turned and ran in the same direction as my friends. We were never named for that crime, though I knew my dad had his suspicions that we had something to do with it. It wouldn't be for a few years later that I wished we had come clean. After all, it was just supposed to be a prank. I don't think Richie and Brady thought Levi would do something like that. And I certainly didn't. I think I was just scared of what Levi would do if he ever found out I ratted him out. So I stayed silent. Now that I'm back here, all these years later, I stood outside our house in the dead of night with my cat and her recently defaced collar at my feet. And I wondered if the mysterious death of Mr. Jingles is still talked about, and if anyone ever thought of any leads. I wondered why it was so difficult to get in touch with Richie or Brady or their families. Maybe I would try to get in touch with Levi, but part of me doesn't want to see the man he grew up to be. A thick fog was creeping down the street. I watched as it grew, frothing up my driveway. I began to wonder if the reason why I couldn't get a hold of my friends was more simple and yet more outlandish than anything more feasible than moving away. The fog had reached my feet, and the cat meowed frightfully, and with a hiss ran somewhere behind the house. But here I stood, watching the wall of unnaturally decisive fog move towards and envelop me. I stood here, waiting for what I knew I had been due for some time. I know it wouldn't matter if I tried to run from it or not, because I'm here in this town, and the consequences of my part in a joke gone wrong are here to greet me. Through the thick fog, I can hear the distorted sound of an ice cream truck's song approaching, and through the fainted beat can be made out the cacophonous ringing, as if some pair of jingling bells attached to two slippered feet jingle, jingle, safe and sound. Safe and sound. 7:15 a.m. Go downstairs. Phone fully charged. Remove cable. Stare at phone wallpaper. Not familiar. Photo of huge oak in West Park at end of my street, where Rich proposed. Maybe took it yesterday. Maybe not. Not sure. Stare more. Check for messages. Mum, Sarah, Rich. Rich! Not heard from him in ages. Is he okay? Oh, he's replying to me. I didn't message him. I must have. Yes, look. Asked if he had a good weekend. Sent 23:03 yesterday. Was in bed by 10. Must have got up. Come downstairs. Forgotten. Sleepwalking. Again. Getting regular now. See a doctor. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. Rich is fine. Am I okay? Reply. Short and sweet. Don't encourage the ex from hell. Don't know why I messaged him at all. Ping. It's your move on Words with Friends. What's that? Looks like Scrabble game. Never heard of it. Why is it on my phone? Quick look around it. I have 5 games in play. 5. It's my move in all of them. Didn't drink last night. Uninstall Words with friends. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. Coffee. Cinnamon roll. Sofa. Slightly more awake. Check phone again. More from Rich. Why did you get back in touch? Want to meet up? Ignore. Sarah. She says thanks with thumbs up. Thanks for what? Scroll messages. Yes, she can borrow my copy of Catch-22. Still own Catch-22? Thought I lost it ages ago. Scroll more. Told Sarah I found it. Don't remember that. Check bookshelves later. Reply to Mum. Yes, still coming for dinner on Thursday. Thursday? When did we plan that? Never mind. I'm free. I'll go. Add to calendar. Entry for Saturday. What's that? Date with Tom. No details. No memory of this. Message, Tom. Hi, are we meeting this Saturday? 8 a.m. now. Ring for doctor's appointment. 32nd in the queue. Sorry. No more appointments today. Please call back 8 a.m. tomorrow. System is enough to make me need a doctor. Whisper. Safe and sound, safe and sound. Bookshelves. No sign of Catch-22. Check 3 times. What's this? Copy of Never Let Me Go lying on top of other books. I never do that. Do I? Don't remember this edition. Cover is blue with picture of cassette tape. Thought mine was orange with girl in green dress. Flick through it. Pages dog-eared. I never do that. Spine cracked. I never do that. Must be mistaken. Phone beeps. Rich. I can see you're reading my messages. Tom replies, Hi, Grace. Yes? Royal Oak, 2 p.m. Saturday. Remember? You okay? I'm worried about you. He's not the only one. Why don't I remember things I should? Phone announces. There's movement at the front door. Letterbox clangs. Amazon delivery. Thanks, I think. Not expecting anything. Rip open cardboard zip. Copy of Catch-22. Green cover. Same edition I lost. Open Amazon app on phone. Ordered book yesterday. Did I? Didn't know Sarah wanted it till now. Or did I? Coincidence? Put phone down. Deep breath. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. Phone alarm sounds. 9 a.m. Take pills. Yes. Take pills. Go to kitchen. Find clean glass. All glasses are clean. When did I wash up? Tap. Water. Pills. Swallow. Running low. Need to order repeat prescription. Open browser on phone. Doctors is bookmarked. Multiple tabs already open. What are they? First tab. Google, seems about right. Second tab, British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy. Have I been looking for a therapist? Maybe I need one? Psychiatrist, perhaps more useful? Third tab, Royal Oak. I did book a table for Saturday, maybe. Check for confirmation email. Open Gmail. Premium bonds. You have won a prize. Go to Premium Bonds app. App not there. Check all screens. No sign. Must have uninstalled. Why? We'll check for prizes on website later. Message from Rich. Don't open it. Search Gmail for Royal Oak. Booking confirmation. 3 people, 2 p.m. Saturday. 3 people. Me? Tom? Who else? Message Tom. Who are we meeting on Saturday? He's not online. Phone rings. Withheld number. Hello? Man's voice. Is that Grace? I'm responding to the enquiry you made through my website. Are you still looking for a therapist? Did I do that? Hang up. Rings back. Don't answer. Too weird. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. More coffee. Must order meds. Back to browser. Bookmarks. Medical practice online. Order repeat prescription. Done. Bookmarks. What did I just see? Lingerie site? Wasn't looking at lingerie. Click on link. There are 4 items in your basket. Click on basket. Red peephole bra and matching satin G-string. Pink see-through baby doll. Black crotchless bodysuit. All in my size. None to my taste. Shopping for Tom? Not his thing either. More what Rich would like. Ugh. Empty basket. Delete bookmark. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. Phone beeps. Tom. I don't know who we're meeting. You said it was a surprise. See messages from last night. Were you drunk? Surprise for me too. Check last night's messages with Tom. 23. Message deleted. 23:08. Message deleted. 23:12. Message deleted. Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. Not drunk. Possibly not fully conscious. Sleep texting? Need stronger pills. Call doctor again tomorrow. Good news needed. Open premium bonds. Website online. Password not recognized. Type again. Slowly. Password not recognized. Type again. Very slowly. You only have one more attempt before your account is locked. Was I drunk last night? No. Worked till 8. Home. Showered. Changed. Bed by 10. Back to kitchen. Open booze cupboard. 4 ciders and half bottle of Bailey's missing. Sleep drinking? Whisper. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. No hangover. Didn't drink all that. Brought friend home. Who drinks? Bed by 10. Makes no sense. would remember someone else in-house. Check spare room anyway. No one there. Bed not slept in. Phone beeps. Rich. I have to look. I miss you. Are you ignoring me? Check all rooms. Front door locked. Back door locked. Spare key. Gone. Message Tom. Have you got my spare key? Phone beeps. Sarah. Hey, chick. You okay today? Don't suppose you can send me the pic of that new restaurant we saw last week? I knew I'd forget the name. Ha ha ha. Tom replies. Not this time. Gave it back to you on Friday. Are you okay? Check camera roll for Sarah. Multiple pics of girl asleep in bed. Wait, can't have taken these pics. That's me. Safe and sound. Safe and sound. The tragedy of Frederick Thorpe. The guards dragged a man through the gallows. His eyes were flushed and red, and his face was swollen from holding his breath, for he refused to allow even a single tear to fall. The guards pulled the man up the stairs. The soddened and weathered wood creaked and bounced with each step. They carried the man across the stage of the scaffold to the hangman, whose eyes were buried in the hollows of the Hessian burlap fastened to his face. A crowd had gathered in the gallows. Among them was King Theobald, the crown of the Northern Empire, who sat front and center of this spectacle. King Theobald raised his hand, and the crowd reduced its whooping to a whisper. Centi milione. You have been charged with, tried, and convicted of embezzlement and treason of the highest order. You packed your purloin purse with pilfers and compromised the integrity of our nation. You are hereby stripped of your duties as High Commander, and for your transgressions you shall reimburse the crown with your life. Centi drew a deep breath, but before the hangman could cinch the rope, Centi coughed to the crowd. I, Centi milione, am a convicted man, and I maintain my innocence. But since my sentence is irrevocable, I have only one request that I wish, in my final moments of life, to be granted. King Theobald flicked his wrist, and the hangman stepped away from the edge of the scaffold stage. And what might that be? Someone is missing from the crowd, and I would like for that person to be present. Seeing their face would comfort me. Who? Frederick the 14th, Rory, a captain of the Northern Imperial Army, climbed out of the crowd and approached King Theobald. I shall fetch Frederick for you, sir. Very well. We shall resume upon your return. Ta. Frederick Thwititon stepped away from the window in his bedchamber. The spectators had gathered in the gallows below, and they were jeering loudly as the hangman held the nape of the man on the platform. Frederick threw his back to the wall near the window, working his thumb and pointer into the fissures of his forehead. One moment, I'm the chief officer, and in the next, I'll be High Commander. High Commander. I'll likely be crowned tomorrow. I must prepare. Frederick, at his desk, retrieved paper and a fountain pen, then began to write. Dearest King Theobald, our illustrious crown, I am most truly obliged to you. An image twinkled in his periphery. Across the room, above the mantel, there was a painting, a portrait of 3 men of similar stature and countenance to each other. Also to Frederick IV, but to a lesser degree. From on high they stared down at Frederick XIV as he crossed the room towards them. Tomorrow, I shall be named High Commander of the Northern Imperial Army, and I will follow in your footsteps. And maybe one day, my personage will join yours in portraiture. He received 2 knocks at his door. Who's there? Celia, sir. Captain Rory would like to join your company. Frederick opened the door to reveal Celia, the chambermaid, and Rory, a step behind her. Rory. Sir, there has been a request made for you. What is the nature of this request? Am I allowed inside? Frederick ushered Rory inside. King Theobald has granted Senti one wish. Has he not been executed? In only a moment's time. But never mind that, Frederick. Senti's wish is to see you. Frederick flew across the room and away from Rory. See me? For what reason? Frederick, you are but his dearest friend. What is the reason for your delay? Frederick turned his back to Rory. There is no reason other than that I would not want to see a hanging in the gallows. But you have witnessed your fair share of executions, none of which have been dear friends, Frederick said. So what shall I tell Senti? Tell Senti that my love is with him, and that his visage shall be forever reflected in my duties. Of High Commander, Frederick nodded his head. I'll likely be crowned tomorrow. His ill repute shall be absolved with me. Ill repute? Are you suggesting that you believe Senti to be guilty? Senti was convicted. Frederick kicked at the lint littering the floor. Whether I believe that he is guilty or innocent matters not. His shadow will swing in the gallows, inevitably. What am I hearing, sir? Have you not shed a tear at the thought of his absence? Yes, many times. Then how could you dare allow him to leave without one final show of your affection? I think that it is best for both he and I to not meet under such conditions, no matter how sentimental. Frederick turned his back to Rory. The crowds below began to bellow beneath the cloudy sky. Rory sneered, slamming the door behind him. Frederick XIV to the portrait. Father, grandfather, great-grandfather, I hope that after the ceremony tomorrow, you'll acknowledge me as one of your own, an aurora in the sky of our heritage. I hope that I will have proven myself worthy in thine eye. King Theobald belted out from the gallows. Centimilione. Frederick returned to the window, but did not look out. You have been charged with, tried, and convicted of embezzlement and treason of the highest order. You packed your purloin purse with pilfers, and compromised the integrity of our nation. You are hereby stripped of your duties as High Commander, and for your transgressions, you shall reimburse the crown with your life." Frederick's face twisted centripetally into his head, wringing out but one tear that trekked the contour of his cheek to his chin. King Theobald: "Hangman, allow Centimilione to pay his debts." The wood of the gallows outside creaked. The lone tear from Frederick's face croaked when it splattered across the floor, and the sound of Senti's final grunt echoed. To patrilineage, the wind stirred recklessly, carrying waves of rainwater across the land. Lightning found Frederick's bedchamber, and thunder clapped in his ear, waking him from his slumber. He held his aching head. "Celia, Celia." The chambermaid rushed inside with a candelabra. "Yes, sir." "I cannot see." With the candle from her candelabra, she lit more candles, placing them at various spots throughout the room. "Fetch me a glass of water. My head is tender and sore." Celia left the room. Frederick laid on his pillow until he heard a voice. "Son." Frederick opened his eyes, and standing at his bedside was his father, Frederick the 13th. "We must go now." Frederick could see his grandfather, Frederick the 12th, staring out of the window, and Frederick 11th, his great-grandfather, admiring the portrait. Father, grandfather, great-grandfather, why must you leave now? I seek wise counsel. Your ways have offended us, Frederick 11th said. There is no way that we could accept you as you are, Frederick the 12th said, and we will not offer wise counsel. Your legacy is now your own. Frederick the 14th said. Thunder hammered, and lightning seemingly struck the center of the bedchamber, forcing Frederick the 14th to shield his eyes from the blinding light. Frederick opened his eyes. Father, Father. Frederick searched the room, but they were gone. In their wake, he padded across the parquet floor to his mantel. He squinted at the portrait, and what he saw poisoned his heart. Only the 3 heads of his patriarchy remained. Their bodies had disappeared entirely. Celia handed him the glass of water. Are you okay? Frederick kept his face in the fold of his elbow. He thumbed up at the portrait. Tell me what you see, Celia. Your great-grandfather, grandfather, and father. Can you see the whole of them? Yes, sir, I can. I must rest. Frederick chugged his glass of water and sent Celia away before climbing sluggishly into bed. He laid with his eyes wide. The torrent raged outside. I declare war. Frederick snapped his fingers. More spirits. He reclined in his gilded chaise lounge with a glass in his fist, which Celia refilled. Frederick finished the glass in one gulp, then dropped it. The thick crystal thumped across the varnished wood. He stumbled from the chaise lounge and grabbed a hold of two harlots, and they guided him to the bed. Present were two officers, Francis and Giles, each heaped with a pair of women, and spirits in their midst. "How's it feel to have an empire under your command?" Francis jeered. "Grand, and the luxury to rest on your laurels in the lap of an impregnable kingdom," Giles said. "Swell." Frederick looked to the women. "Kiss me, will you?" The two women pressed their faces into his. He received a knock at the door. "Who dares disturb me?" Frederick burped. "Celia, sir." "Are you aware, Celia, that we are engaged in official military duties?" "Yes, sir." "Then why do you bother our securing of this great nation?" "The chief officer says he must see you now." "Allow the sap in." Rory rushed in. "Mr. Rory, chief officer, have you come to join in the luxuries afforded to our ranks?" "No, sir." "Then why do you—" Frederick burped again. "Why do you dare interrupt our briefing?" "The Southern Empire, sir," Rory said. Frederick slurred. "Yes." "They have declared war." Frederick puckered up instantaneously. His eyelids spread wide. His pupils shrunk to little black dots, and his eyes receded far into skull. He folded his dressing gown across his chest and crossed his legs. "The South has declared war, you say? What must we do?" "But you are the High Commander, right?" King Theobald rejected their demands and accepted their declaration of war. He has since issued a decree. "Very well." Frederick stumbled to the center of the room. "Everyone out, save for the chief officer." Only Frederick and Rory remained. "High Commander, what is your plan? Our nation's security is at stake." I know. With his arms crossed high on his chest, Frederick crept across the room to his mantel. He laid his head into his rested elbow. He looked up to his portrait. 3 silhouettes now stained the canvas. "Chief officer," Rory observed Frederick's constitution with a hawk's eye. "Yes, High Commander?" "Look up at the portrait and tell me what you see. Your great-grandfather, grandfather, and your father. Why? Do you see the whole of them?" "Yes, I do." "Heavens, gather the rest of our staff. I will meet you all in the Hall of Mirrors." "Yes, sir." Rory exited the bedchamber. Frederick to the emptied portrait. "How could you have abandoned me at such an inopportune time?" Frederick's eyes were deep, dark portholes that revealed no soul. "Celia?" Celia entered. "Yes, sir." He raised his glass. "More spirits, please." 3. The soul of a man. Frederick hunched forward while clearing the gown from his feet, tottered into the Hall of Mirrors. In the center was an expansive table with 15 chairs measuring its circumference. The army staff silently observed the High Commander's disposition. Frederick looked them all over and pointed out an unfamiliar figure, a kimono-clad, ashen-faced woman. "Who's she?" "Kitty." She lifted her face, slightly peeking under her brow. "A medium. Why should we need a—" Frederick burped. A medium? She will be of assistance as we plot the fate of our empire. She couldn't possibly serve as our wise counsel. We, the staff of the Northern Imperial Army, conceded that neither of us but one is able to offer wise counsel. But you are the best of the best, are you not? Our very best was plucked from among us, Rory said. Now we must seek wise counsel elsewhere. Where else? From beyond the grave. Frederick waved his hand. Under no circumstances shall we do such a thing. High Commander, you must understand, lives are at stake. Your reputation is at stake. And since you cannot lead us, then we must source our dearly departed friend. Frederick turned his back, observing the staff through the mirrors. Centi milione, centi, centi. Frederick humbled into the circle of fog on the glass. You remember him, don't you, High Commander? Right. Of course. Why wouldn't I? A great man. Then there should be no objections. Rory turned to the medium. Kitty, if you will, please bring to us our dearly departed Centi milione. Kitty placed 2 Japanese taiko drums on the table before her and clanged them rhythmically. She left them alone, and the rhythm continued in her absence. She leaped weightlessly from the floor. With the fabric flagging from her frail frame, she raced across the polished mahogany from end to end, mumbling a chant. She stopped. On her back, she convulsed atop the table, arching her body before falling to the floor. From the floor, a figure rose, the soul of Centi milione. The army staff could not believe their eyes. Centi? Rory, it is I. The two hugged. Staff, what a pleasure to be in your presence once again. Centi found that Frederick was huddled in a corner of glass. Frederick, my dear friend, join us. How? Frederick crawled to the table side. It has been so long since I last saw your face. My final request was to see you, but you didn't show. I know. How come? I couldn't bear to see you in that moment. Centi caressed Frederick's head. It's okay. Centi looked to the rest of the staff. So, why have you summoned me? Rory pounced. Our great empire is at war. There should be no issues then. A Frederick is amongst you. We seek wise counsel. Rory continued. Centi looked down. Frederick avoided Centi's gaze. Centi jousted Frederick. Have you spoken to your father? Frederick was silent. Well, have you? Rory barked. Yes. And your grandfather? Centi continued. Yes. Your great-grandfather too? Yes. Great. What did they say? Frederick broke free and ran to a mirror across the room. This cannot be, he whispered to himself. Centi followed. What's the matter? Frederick broke free once more and darted to another mirror. This can not be. How could it be? Centi met him there as well. Frederick didn't resist. Centi, tell them how good of a friend you were to me. Frederick brushed Centi's ghastly complexion. You were a good friend, but I was not. Rory stood up at the table. "What do you mean, my friend?" Senti asked. Frederick looked up at the ceiling, but seemingly beyond it. "For my entire life, I walked the path of my predecessors, but I could never keep pace. And now they have sprinted far ahead of me. They came to me in the night and informed me that they must leave my side, that I had offended their honor and ripped my name from the annals of our history. What could you have done that was so abhorrent?" Frederick wept until he regained control of himself. "When you called out for from the gallows, I was afraid to see you. You broke the chain that linked me to my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. All I could see was their scorn and shame." Frederick looked into Senti's troubled eyes. "After the celebration, hosted in King Theobald's honor, he had you arrested." "Right, and you were tried." "Yes, and subsequently convicted." "This is all true. The punishment for the charges leveled against you, hanging in the gallows, was fair, but the evidence, it was fabricated." The staff gasped. "I knew it!" Rory screamed. "That evidence, in light of the celebration that you hosted, I knew it would be the perfect foil, that the pride of King Theobald would believe it. And he did. I told him that you had embezzled monies, as well as colluded with another nation, and he accepted my word as bond." The staff sucked in all of the air in the room. Senti pushed away from Frederick with haste. "How could you? How dare you? You knew how much that position meant to me, and how right I was for it. You had me killed to assuage your vainglorious greed." Senti was so heated that he could breathe fire. He beamed his scalding eyes at Frederick. "You fool! And because you are so, I wish for you to suffer a fool's fate." Senti spun away from them all and reduced himself to a bended form. Kitty reclaimed her seat. Hiding his face in the arm of his dressing gown, Frederick watched as Rory crept slowly to him. Rory rested a knee. "I knew from the beginning that you had something to do with it, but no one trusted my word. You call yourself a friend? I should spit upon your trifling head. You do not deserve anyone's pity." Frederick shielded furthermore, his face pressured to burst with tears that refused to fall. "You send a courageous man, an honorable man, a competent man to the gallows to satisfy your own selfish pride? And then attempt to replace him with your pathetic inadequacies? Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself, because your time amongst our ranks has expired." Rory stood over Frederick. "You drunken coward. You'll believe anything. There is no war. The Southern Empire never declared war upon us." Frederick's face red of shame. "Carry him to a cell. He'll stand before King Theobald in the morning, and the hellhounds will drag him from the gallows come nightfall. The staff lifted Frederick from the floor, and he didn't resist. He could barely lift his head as they carried his limp body towards the exit. All that Frederick the 14th could manage was a mumble. I... Frederick relaxed altogether as the air hissed from his drunken lips. Blood rain. It wasn't the red aliens that were the problem. It was the voodoo high priests that caused all the mischief. Monkey hands, parrot beaks, and baboon skulls were one thing. But when the blood rains came, all of the usual cons kicked into high gear. The mantis-like, spindly red alien surveyed my vegetables with an air of fascination. He stopped on the okra, holding up a stalk and studying it. He was dressed in ripped whitewashed jeans and a Blink 182 t-shirt. But behind his disguise was a standard silver spandex jumpsuit, like they all wore when they came into town to creep around. Whatever else you could say about the red aliens, they were creepers by nature, with no sense of boundaries. I just wanted him to move along. I clenched a final notice of foreclosure auction in my hand, as if taking out my anger on the paper would save the family ranch. Yahya Gabon took the deed to our ranch in foreclosure. Yahya was a cattle herder, but before that, he had been a TAF general and still had pull with the government. Yahya was hard, implacable, unyielding, a real monster. Yahya once shot and killed a 6-year-old boy playing in his grazing pastures while the child begged for his life. The laws allowed one to protect their land from intruders. When asked why he'd done it, Yahya had said, "The signs on the perimeter say, 'Stay out, trespassers shot on sight.' Wouldn't mean nothing if I didn't follow through." The Police Nacional who had questioned him said, "Yahya, the kid was illiterate. Guess he should have paid more attention in school." Yahya had said. The way Yahya looked at it was, when he set his eye on what's yours, it was his if he could find a way to take it from you. Uncle Kofi was missing an eye from turning the other cheek in a fight as a boy. But the rock in the other kid's hand had landed just right and shot the eyeball clean out. Uncle Kofi was a pacifist who wouldn't even swat a mosquito. So this was no contest. I had told Uncle Kofi we should just give up the ranch. We couldn't afford it. But Uncle Kofi was superstitious. He believed that fate could be wooed. A few weeks earlier, I had gone with Uncle Kofi to the Ako Desawa fetish market and met with Guédenon Benoit, the voodoo man. We entered his office, as he called it, which was a hut with a square-framed doorway lined with human skulls that looked like a no-frills mine shaft leading into a catacomb. The standing air inside was stiff, musky, and moist. The walls of the inner chamber were filled with the dried heads of dogs, monkeys, birds, naxos, and every imaginable living thing you could think of. You could almost hear the animal sounds echo from the clay walls. Uncle Kofi gasped at the abundance of spirits filling this hovel. I did not share his sense of wonder. I joked to myself, internally, that this was the great roadkill emporium of Lomé. Here it is, Guédanon said, his rounded jowl stubbled with patches of white, and his bald head shining from the torchlight. The basket was filled with little dried chameleons, with their helmet-shaped heads adorned with horns and bony lumps, like modern-day dinosaurs. It smelled like furry jerky, dried in the humid, tropical breeze. Yes, here we are. After putting a handful of chameleons in a basket, Guédanon gathered a handful of dried parrots, each withered down to the size of a famished mouse. Now, to change your luck, you will grind up the chameleon and grind up the parrot. Guédanon depicted the grinding while he spoke, taking up a pewter bowl and mallet to make the demonstration, the torchlight reflecting off his bald forehead. You will mix this with soap and bathe yourself in it. Do this 2 times a day. 3 days, not a day more, not a day less. Uncle Kofi tapped Guédanon on the shoulder while he looked for some other nonsense to sell us. Did you hear about the Dulaba? You mean about the strangers whose minds could not be read? They were talking about these totems at the village gates by our farm that look like men sitting cross-legged, with arms extruded, and heads of black tar, with seashells for eyes. The guardians, or Dulaba, are supposed to be able to scan the minds of foreigners entering the village, to discern if they have ill intent. I heard that the Westerners, the lanky ones, who appeared before the blood rains, I heard that none of the priests could discern their purpose from the Duleba, Uncle Kofi said. It is true, Guédanon told him. I wanted to scream. They are red aliens, you moron. No one knows what they want. But I couldn't say anything, or I'd be committed. I was the only one who could see them ever since I was a child. I had been hiking on Mont Agu, exploring its ridges, when I saw a light in the mist and stumbled upon their cliffside observatory. Normally, it was cloaked, but something about the vapors in the mist had screwed with the effect, did something to the light. When I walked into what looked like a temple from the outside, I saw a screen wrapping around the length of the chamber in a semicircle. Large, spindly red, mantis-like creatures with 4 legs on their hind parts were engrossed in the readings and images on their screens, tapping away with long, bony fingers on the consoles in front of them. One of them turned its hooded eyes and triangular face in my direction and screamed, the pincers on the sides of its mouth flaring in fright. A group of them rushed toward me. I shielded my face. But they were not violent. That was when they gave me the scarab beetle amulet that allowed me to recognize them despite their cloaking tech, and explained to me about the bright blue marble we inhabit. They said, "It is not that Earth is special. There are plenty of habitable worlds with natural wonders. It is the size of the moon that counts. Our mission is to scan the cosmos to find other worlds that can host life. Other worlds with just the right size of moon." I had pressed the aliens as to why this was the case, and they had elaborated and explained everything in great detail. But I couldn't understand much of it. The only worlds that host life are those worlds with a moon that is just the right size to create a total solar eclipse, one of the red aliens said. And once that sacred syzygy goes out of balance, or is disrupted, life moves on. I had asked why they didn't just place moons around any planets with the right characteristics. He said, "There is a directive against playing God. Each civilization rises and falls on its own merits. When the time comes, a people either mature and venture out from their home or are snuffed out." It sounded dramatic back then, but these days, I don't know that a fair judge would deem us worthy of salvation, least of all us Togolese, who were forever finding reasons to kill and brutalize one another. The red aliens come from a sad, timeless dimension, much like Togo. On their world, there are tiny microbes in the soil that cover everything in shades of red. The microbes are in the air, the soil, the water, and can lay dormant for centuries, which is what is causing the blood rains. So much of this stuff is filtered out of the observatory that when they are here, they are literally pumping red dye into the clouds, day in and day out. In Togo, the next calamity is always waiting right around the corner, and word travels fast in Lomé. To stir people into a panic only takes the smallest of rumors. Strange lights flashing around Mont Agu. Tall, spindly men in strange clothing loitering in the market. Match that up with omens like blood rain and a lunar eclipse, and the entire populace was stewing with anxiety and murmuring up a storm. Especially Uncle Coffee. It was great for the priests. But you know what terror and intrigue is bad for? Selling vegetables and fattening cows, and for all of the divination and soothsaying about how the bloodshed of decades gone by would be punished unless the land was purified. How those cries reaching to heaven would compel the Almighty to blot out the sun. Despite all of that, all this voodoo accomplished was to tear into old wounds and inspire fresh political violence. Everyone in the suburban villages and the slums blamed someone for their troubles and sought protection or aid from the priests. The radicals blamed the Union Party and the rich Kabyé tribe for subjugating the masses and censoring speech. For this and for that, and prayed for their downfall. The Union Party blamed the radicals for deceiving the public with lies and doubled down on censorship. And the disputes were much the same in the suburbs. Each side thought the other evil. Each side saw the issue as one-sided, good versus evil. In a way, each side was right, and each side was wrong, and our people, splintered in 1,000 factions, with no unifying principle, pointed fingers at each other, much the same as our governors did, and old feuds spilled out into bloodshed. And Yahya had sent a man to tell Uncle Kofi he'd be coming to the ranch the next day, and it was time we cleared out. I gripped the crumpled notice in a tight fist and looked up at the stranger. The red alien at my vegetable stall in the Lomé Grand Market grabbed one of my best okra plants and gave it a once-over, not knowing I could see through his disguise. "How much for one of these?" he asked in French. "Why are you here?" "I am looking for vegetables to thicken a stew." "Cut the shit," I said. "We've been having blood rain for the past 2 months." The red alien laughed heartily. "It's just from dust kicked up into the atmosphere from a dust storm. For 2 months? Dust doesn't take 2 months to settle. Maybe it is some kind of algae, like a red tide. It stained all my white clothes. It burned the leaves off the trees. People are using it to tattoo skin." "What do you think it is?" "I know what it is. Red alien bugs." "What else?" His buggy eyes bulged, and his forehead furrowed. Then he settled into realization. "You're her. You're Dora Igwe. Dora the Explorer. The one who found us, in the flesh. Do you want to come watch the eclipse with us?" "Why would I do that?" "It is an important celestial event. No disrespect. But it gets dark once a day. It's called night. I really don't get the novelty." "You wouldn't, would you?" "I guess it's like the suddenness of the enveloping darkness. It is metaphorical. Sometimes, you know, it is later than you think." "What's that supposed to mean?" "You know, your people believe that war and bloodshed are like a virus, that it infects even the sun and the moon. And when the sun and moon get to quarreling, that brings about the eclipse, a final warning to change your ways." Those are just Batamaliba folk stories. They say the first mothers, Puka Puka and Kuyekok, told the villagers that the darkening of the sun was a warning to make amends for old feuds and live in peace, and the light will return. You are a spacefaring team of scientific explorers. You know this is an astrological, mathematical event. It has nothing to do with violence. Don't be so sure, child. There is much you do not understand. As the red alien turned and walked up the long, dusty road to the forest switchbacks, he turned and said, "Come watch with us, if you want." In the observatory, we waited for the eclipse. The red aliens were frantic. The one from earlier who I'd nicknamed Tommy, took the controls and lifted the ship to a hover. "We've got to find a better vantage point," he said, as the ship floated through the Tongolese countryside outside Lomé. I could feel the eerie shadow chasing us down. The sky was full of fast-moving clouds, and a low mist hung to the valley floor, slinking down the mountain slopes and resting on the fields. The ship came to rest in Yahya's grazing lands, and the moon obstructed the sun. The red aliens gasped with a sound like the whistling of the wind. Like I said, though, I'm not superstitious. The whole thing seemed a bit overblown to me, but there it was, the total eclipse. A black orb with the faintest halo of red, set against a black, overcast, and moonless sky. Tommy turned to another red alien, who I'd known for years, and had nicknamed Freddy, and said, "The satellite has started moving too close. It is only a matter of time now. Isn't everything?" Freddy asked. "Hey, what is he talking about?" I asked. "Don't you worry, child," Freddy said. "When the time has come, it will all happen very quickly. She doesn't know we are here for the moon," Tommy blurted out. "It is just the right size for the colony in HD 1106-7, Freddy said. Freddy made a gesture to shush him. But it was too late. I had heard it. So, for all our worries about our earthly disputes, this was what the end of the world looked like. At least I wouldn't end up being homeless. That had been the thought I'd been obsessing over for days. I went to look out the back window, and it was just like Freddy had said. It was coming quickly. Yahya was in the cab, rolling the excavator toward the ship, and the dipper and bucket were swinging down and about to crash through the ceiling. The sound was deafening. Shards of metal and other materials rained down. Wires and diodes and mechanical pieces pelted our heads and the ground. The red aliens shrieked. Tommy was holding Freddy like a kid in a theater caught with an unexpected jump scare. I ran out in the fields, under the dark, moonless sky. Yahya raised the bucket over and over, caving in the roof of the ship and tearing huge chunks of the fuselage out into his fields. Yahya was smoking a Cuban cigar, and I could hear him yelling, "Serves you right. Trespassers." I guess a similar thing would happen soon to our ranch house, in the family for 5 generations. Maybe the barn, too. That seemed to be the way of things, to tear down the old to make way for the new. Especially here in Togo. Tommy made it out of the ship, only to be met by the blast of a shotgun. "Got one," Yahya shouted. I just watched, frozen. The blast tore Tommy's torso nearly in half, felling him. The blood poured and oozed out onto the dark fields. The pool of blood was red, just like ours. I guess, however different we are on the outside, maybe all living things bleed red. We are a thirsty bunch, the living hungering after that red nectar, to stir it, to shed it, to pool it and collect it. Then Yahya turned to me and pointed the shotgun at my face. "Run," he said. "Get off my land." And I ran through the pitch-dark fields in the cool of the eclipse, crying as I waited for a gunshot that never came. Yahya yelled after me, "Enjoy your home while you can. I'll be coming for it." And he laughed, a bellowing stomach laugh, an eerie, chortling, bone-chilling laugh, inevitable, unquenchable, soulless. And as I ran, tripping on rocks, legs cut by tall grasses, I saw sirens in the night. At least 12 SUVs, the Gendarmerie Nationales, the National Guard. They were coming for Yahya, alerted by the gunshots and the carnage. A tall, friendly Fed with a pock-marked face jumped out of one of the vehicles and tried to grab me. "It's okay now. We've got this," he said. But I wrestled away from him. As I made it to the clearing and the dirt road, I dared a glance back at the haloed specter of the eclipse. I hoped Uncle Kofi would be back at the kitchen table, waiting for me with some vegetable soup, blissfully impervious to the warring entities ravaging our lands. The blood rains fell in a torrent, coating the dirt road in a river of blood. I guess not all monsters are created equal. Ours take life without reason or remorse, just because they can. A sliver of light emerged from the fading eclipse as I reached the drive to the ranch house, lighting my path, warming the shadows. Uncle Coffee was at the door, the smell of the fetish soap on his skin. "Our luck is changing," he said. "A belly full of apples." "Well, explain to me what it was doing on the tree if I wasn't meant to eat it. I had a long, hard day, Adam. If you remember correctly, you were supposed to name all the animals with tails, while I handled the green ones. The next thing I know, you're passed out by the water circle, taking yet another one of your naps. That left me to come up with all those names, and by the time I was done, I was famished. The apple tree is the closest to the water hole, and that's why I picked an apple. It was convenient. I wasn't deliberately trying to disobey the Lord. After an exhausting day, I simply wanted whichever fruit I could get to first. Can you explain to me why God put the forbidden fruit so close to us and made it so red to draw our attention to it, and made it so tasty? Adam, if you could try an apple, you would never be the same. I cannot describe its delectability. You may as well try one now. We've already been cast out. It's not as though he's going to cast us out again. If you ask me, it's unbelievably rude of him to have us name every living creature on earth, put all the acceptable fruit out of reach, and then kick us out of the garden once all the tedious tasks are completed. He didn't even say thank you, not even a card expressing his thanks. I realize cards haven't been invented yet, but if he can create an entire universe in a few days, I think he can figure out a way to show gratitude. Don't you? Oh, stop crying, Adam. This place isn't so bad. Sure, it isn't paradise, but there are some plants with needles sticking out of them, and some lovely dust, and a lot of very interesting rocks. That one looks sharp. Be sure to never pick it up and drop it on anybody's head. Please cover yourself up. I don't know why, but for some reason, I can't stand the sight of you in all your nakedness. Shame. What's that? No, you know I don't listen when he talks. It's so loud and condescending. Do this, do that. Name this, worship me. Stop rolling your eyes at me, Eve, or I'll turn you back into a rib. It's all so boring. If any of it were all that vital to know, he'd write it down on a piece of stone. I suggested that to him once, and he pretended it was a bad recommendation. But secretly, I think he filed it away to use at a later date. The first time I see a rock with a rule on it, I'm going to look up at the sky and say, "Wow, who gave you that idea?" See if I don't. I'm not afraid of him, you know. You might be, but I'm not. I've barely had time to contemplate my own existence, so the threat of having my existence nullified is of no concern to me. Clearly, he doesn't want to get rid of us and start from scratch, or he would have done it already. No, he wants to teach us a lesson. He wants us to wander aimlessly for the remainder of our lives, cloaked in this thing called shame. I shall not. I refuse. I have nothing to be ashamed of, and I will not pretend that I do. A man makes a silly rule, and if the rule is broken, that does not make it any less silly. I don't care what sort of man it is. I don't care if you say God is not simply a man. He sounds like a man. And because he can sound any way he likes, that means he wants to sound like a man. We call him he, don't we? Then he is a man with made-up rules for living that I was never going to obey. I don't care if he hears me. Let him hear me. I am meant to spend the rest of my days surrounded by needle plants, and you, a man with one rib. I am meant to wear rags, because not wearing them makes me feel strange. I am meant to have children, I suppose. Based on how disagreeable I am and how stupid you are, I can't imagine they'll be very endearing children. Once those children are here, I have no idea who they'll have children with, because it'll just be us. I guess that means once we die, and our children die, that'll be the end of this nonsensical little experiment. Oh, but at least we named the giraffes first. A question for you, Adam. Since he isn't responding to us, why are we the only ones who can't eat the apples? I specifically saw a loud bird eating an apple the other day. Why weren't all the loud birds cast out of the garden? If a giraffe eats an apple, will it be thrown out of the garden? Why were we the only ones prohibited? Right, the knowledge. We're not meant to know anything. We're just meant to assign names, be fruitful, multiply, and praise Him every chance we get. If we want knowledge, then it's out we go. Well, Adam, I choose to know. I choose to know things. Not just some things, but everything. Why create an entire world and then tell me I'm not allowed to know anything about it? I can't help but feel this was all some kind of test, and I will not be tested. Had I known that He was testing me, I would have eaten every apple on that tree. I would have stared up at Him with the seeds falling out of my mouth, and I would have laughed. For if I am to go into exile, I am not going with an empty stomach. I will go with a belly full of apples. My only regret is that I stopped at one. I will not feel badly about you being punished for something I did either, because I have been punished many times over for you, for your laziness, for your superiority complex, for the way you smell at night when you are pressed up against me. It reeks so that I can barely sleep. Yet I have said nothing, because I have accepted that we are joined forever. You make strange noises in your sleep, but He never punished you for that. I took one bite, and we are damned. Be angry if you like, Adam, but do not expect me to worry myself over your anger. Your anger is your business. I will not make it mine. Last night, before He woke us with our punishment, I had a dream. I had a dream that all of this was submerged in water. Enough water to cover even the tops of the tallest trees. There were more people, lots more. They were running and screaming. Some were already drowned. In the distance, I could see a large boat, but it was too far away. I would never reach it in time. I would die alongside all these strangers. Instead, I lay myself down. I began to float, right up to the surface. I could still hear the wailing and the pleading all around me, but I was not making a sound. I simply laid like that on the surface of the water and let it take me wherever it wanted to go.